Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the first episode of JS Cult. So in today's video, we'll talk about console API. What is a console API? What are the different utility methods available under the console API? What are the industry standards followed to use this console API? And many more. So by the end of this video, you'll have a very clear idea on console. As we all know, JavaScript is a front-end technology. What that means is JavaScript is compiled by the browser. Okay, what happens if there is any error in your JavaScript code? For the browser, there is no way to show that error to the users. Okay, so for that purpose, browsers integrated something called developer tool. So console is a global object provided by the browser to access this developer tool. So let me start with the console. So console, this is how the structure look. These are the methods available under the console object. Okay, so without wasting more time, let's start with the most popular one. Console.log has two variants. Okay, the first one is very common. You can pass anything, a string, hello world, or you can pass a number, or you can pass some boolean, you can pass an object, you can do anything. You can pass whatever you want and it will reflect back to the console. So this way you can do print debugging. So you can pass n number of arguments and the return type of console is undefined. So after the execution is completed, it will show you this undefined all the time. Also it adds a new line character after the argument, so you don't have to pass a new line character explicitly. So very simple. So there's a second variant of console.log. It's more like a C style printf statement where the first argument is your placeholder, okay, and the second argument is your actual data. So imagine we are using it for strings. So for strings, %s is the placeholder. So %s has joined our organization. Okay, and now here you simply pass the data. So I'm just passing a name here. So this is how it will, and this guy will replace the %s, and as you can see, the entire string is constructed. So one has joined our organization. Fairly simple. So for strings we use %s, for floating point numbers we use %f, and for decimals there is %d. So this is how it looks. So you use %c and you can write anything after that. Okay, now I'm adding the style information here. So anything, just for example, like extra large and then separated by a semicolon, add a color. Okay, so yeah, so this is how we customized our console log. So using this concept, we can easily create our own logger, our customized logger, to give it our own style. Okay, %c. So imagine you have you want to style the next word differently, so you need to apply one more %s here. Okay, and now for the second argument, use another styling. So we'll change the color over here, so maybe red. So now it is all converted. So you can see both has their own styling. So in case you don't want this next thing after hello, you don't want any style to be applied, so you are happy with the default styling, then you can simply use a default, just one blank string. So it will be the default style. Okay, so before we move to the next one, so there is template string is there. So using this backtick syntax also you can easily use this thing, whatever the styling I explained. So okay, so imagine we have some variable str and I have the same thing here. So if you want to execute a multi-line input, remember you need to use a shift with the enter, otherwise it will get invoked. So if you don't want that to invoke in the same line, use a shift key along with the enter to go to the next line. Now we are styling it, so simply use this %c and then $str, okay, and here you can copy paste from the previous example. So this will also be same. So console.info is exactly like console.log, only difference is info message. Only thing is it adds one icon, info icon. So this is exactly like console.log with some modification, minor change. So now we have a warning message like warn. This will also be the same, only thing is it looks like a warning message, so it has this warning icon in front of it, and also you can see a stack trace here. So by clicking on this link you can go to the location from where the console is called. Also we have a console error, so this gives more like a error message, so more like a error kind of signature. Also it has its own stack trace. So console.trace is primarily used to go to the calling location, basically the stack trace. So imagine we have this function called maybe greet, okay, taking very simple example, next, and here we have console.trace, and here we have a basic console.log which says greetings, okay, simple. So now if you go out of this block and call this guy, so what I can see, it is giving you the stack trace where exactly. So line number 2 it is called, and there on what is the flow. So from line number 2 this trace is called. So this was a very simple example. Variable error equal to new error, so we are simply defining an error. So now if we do console.log error, so this also gives you the same thing, the stack trace here, okay. So if you want to display your data, mostly used for arrays or objects, to in a tabular format. So if you want to display the data in a tabular format, there is a method called console.table, okay. So let me show you an example of it. So I'm creating an array, right? So there is a name variable, okay, Rohan. Next is age something, okay, and next is maybe address. So just randomly something we can put, okay. Now let me copy paste, that's all. So this guy is Satish, okay, something else, and sorry, power of fine. So I have my object sorry array ready here. Now I want this to be displayed in a tabular format, so I'm going to use console.table here and then simply pass this object. So now as you can see, it has a tabular structure over here. So you can filter out the columns as well, just need to pass them in a array of string. So now I want to show only the names baby. I just want to see the names of the people, so here it will show you the names only, console.group. So that is also fairly simple. Let me show you. Imagine this is a list of country. Okay, so now console.group country. Now I'm copying this guy here. Okay, console.log in. Now inside this guy I have a list of state. So now inside another group we have console.log KA and then console.log WB. So just for an example, we took two examples, and then you need to close this state group. So the method is group end. And finally we need to close the previous one as well. So console.group end for the first country one. So now this is how it looks. So nicely you can expand, collapse, and it comes in a group in a different categories. So this was fairly simple in terms, since we are showing a demo, but in a real-time scenario it can be used to display a complex structure. So mainly the group starts the group and group end completes the grouping. So hope it's clear. Fine. So after table and group, let me go to the next one. So when we are doing benchmarking or basically performance, anything related to performance optimization or performance measuring, the time taken to do a particular task is really important, and console.time. Let me show you how it works. So imagine we have a console.time. So this is how it starts. You need to start with a constant timer. Let's go constant. Just for an example, I started it. So this is like a constant thing, and we will use it to end the timer. Also, the time taken for the computation will come after this string only. So now for a basic example, just I want how much time the user took to click the enter button. Please click here to complete the testing. Okay, so the amount of time user takes to click this alert button is what we are trying to calculate. So now if we trigger this, we can see, yeah, we saw there's an alert. So I clicked here. Now here you can see, okay, default does not exist. Sorry, my bad. So you need to use the timer here. So let me change that thing, otherwise it will complain that it is already existing. So something _1, okay, _1. So now if we click over here, you should see the time taken. So this is the constant, and this is the amount of time taken by the computation. So in this way you can calculate the time taken by an API to fetch a response as well. So let us see how it works. So we need this is nothing but a fake API response, so it will give you a JSON just for testing. So now I need to convert it to a JSON. That's what we are doing here, JSON, and then just plain simple console.log j. So this is the computation we are doing here. So before that we need to start the timer. So console.time API testing example. So this is the constant we are using, so need to use the same the next line to terminate the timer. So we are closing this. So our expectation is that this small little piece of code will calculate the time taken by this API call to fetch the example JSON, and also next to that it will print you the response. Okay, so you can see this is what it took to fetch the response, and this is the entire response. This is a dummy JSON which I got from the internet. So this console.time is heavily used in the industry and really helpful tool for benchmarking. So it directly gave you the time taken. So any kind of computation you can do. So just before the block of code, just need to add this timer, and after you are done, need to close it with the same thing. So remember, both of these two constant has to be same, otherwise it will throw a warning and it will not work. Okay, assertion is, there is a whole new assertion API available. So for mainly for the test case unit testing automation. Okay, so for testing, what we basically do is in each and every line we provide our expectation whether a certain line of code will return you unexpected variable, unexpected result or not. So that is called an assertion. We are making an assertion that okay, our response should be like this. So you can use this assert method to check whether our expectation is correct or not, or there is any problem in your code. So to do that, let me give you a very basic example. So you just need to use assert, and inside this assert we need to write our assertion. So very basic thing, true, true, true boolean true is equal to 1. So 1 minute. So not equal to, initially it's double equal, so we are not doing the type checking. So this should be correct, so it will not complain about anything and it will pass to the next line of code. But if you are doing this, so it is not correct, so it will complain and it will say assertion failed, completed. Now one last thing is the count method. Okay, so the count method, what it does is it counts how many times a particular console.time line is triggered. The number of iteration it prints in a number next to the string provided inside the argument. Okay, let me show you how it works. So imagine I have an array having some duplicate 1 and 0. So that's it. This is our array. Okay, now we are going through each and every element of this array. So array dot for each, and then so if element equal to 1, console dot 1. So this is what will be printed before the count, and then else. So if it is not 1, so console dot count 0. All right, very simple. So as you can see, there are 3 ones and 3 zeros, so it is calculating that the repetitions. Every time this 1 is triggering, it is increasing the count.
Alright, so now let us create our own customized logger class that will mimic the global console.
So let us quickly do the initial setup. We have created a new folder called console API. Now let's create a src folder over here. Now we have an src folder, one index.html file we need to create. So index.html is ready. Now one more file called index.js. So that will be under src folder. So this is the bare minimum structure which we need. Now one basic HTML code here where we have imported the index.js. Now one package.json, very important. So package.json is there. Now let us quickly start the project, start the installation first. So we have two third-party dependencies. One is Babel for the transpilation and one more is Parcel. Parcel is really handy for the importing and exporting of all these things. Takes care. Now let's start the project. Npm start. Okay, now we need to use it as a module, the index.js. So we've added it as a module. Now let's see in the browser how it shows. So there is nothing available in index.js. We're not showing anything, so that's why it's blank. It's not showing anything over here. So let's go to the JS and do some basic stuff, write something very basic to appear something in the screen. By id app.innerhtml equal to this is test page. Okay, so this is some example, some text we want to appear. Now you can see it's appearing in the UI. Fine. Now let's create a logger class, logger.ts. So this is the page where we'll write our customized logger class customized logger. Okay, having a basic method called log input string something, and then the console log. So console log has a body, so this is the message as input. Whatever you are passing, that will come, and that will be with the styling. So we are adding a %c here, and let's give some static style to that. So first is the color information. So color red and a font style. That's all, separated by a semicolon. So the font size is extra large. So that's it. And now we want to append a timestamp to that. So adding the new date to that. So each and every input will come with a timestamp. Fine. Now let's import it here. So import any name you can give actually. So that name will be used as a class reference, capital C logger, custom logger from the logger.js. Don't forget to add the // here. This is a local file. So that's it, we have imported it. Now just call the log. So create an instance to that logger. So logger is the reference variable. Now we have instantiated log custom logger. Let's call it using logger.log with a basic input. So custom logger message. Okay, so this is the custom message which we are passing. We want to use our customized logger instead of the default logger. So now default logger is console.log. So next to our customized logger, we are showing you the default logger message as well. Let's see how they look in the screen. So now need to export this class, export default. Yeah, so as you can see, our customized log is printing perfectly. Next to that we have our default log message. Okay, so this date is not looking good with the styling. Let's add a %c and a blank string in the end, so that the date timestamp comes in a default style. Now you can see it is coming in the default format only, so styling is only applied to the passed input. Okay, now let's add some utility so that you can disable and enable the custom console log at any point of time. Is disabled, sorry, should use first is enabled. So is enabled will return to true only if disabled is false. Fine, now let's set add a setter to the disabled method, set enabled. So the set enabled will basically return yeah, disabled is false. Now set disabled, so if disabled is true, then it will return true. Now add a if condition, which basically means is we'll call the console log only if this dot enabled is true, the disabled is false, so equal to true. So this way we can control the console log whether to print the logs or not throughout the application. Now let's just call the disabled method dot set disable. Exactly, so now it should not print. Yes, you can see our default log is printing, but the customized log is not printing. Let's just comment it out here for the timing, and you can see it's printing again. So this way you can control the status. So you can do many other things as well. So now let's just add a message color to that. So till now we are using the default color. Let's use a message color and use a setter for that. So let's create a set color that has an input string as an input color. So let's give a default value to that. Maybe if we are not passing anything, blue is the default message color. This dot message color equal to color. So whatever color we are passing, we want our message to be displayed in that color, and by default it should show in blue. So let's replace it with this dot message color. Fine. So now let's go back and call this setter next to that. Set color. Let's use the default version first and see if blue color is coming or not. Yeah, so pretty much what we expected. Now let's add a color, maybe gray. Yeah, so gray color, is it coming? Right, it is coming in gray color. Excellent. So our functions are working exactly what we expected. So now let's just go to the customized logger class and add a title to the messages. So title is one new instance variable we are creating here. So this title will come before each and every method. Okay, it has a name to that, which is the actual text of the title, and a color. So color can be anything what we are passing. Let's just add a setter. So set title to that. So argument should be an object because we have multiple things. So this is a ES6 syntax, name and color. Fine. Now let's just add the setter. This dot title dot name equals name, and same for the color as well. Now if you are not passing anything, what to do? Leave it. So we have to pass it for the example. Okay, this dot title dot color and add color to that. Fine. Let's just go back to the index.js and see how it works. Before that, Yeah, we need to add it here, of course. Now %C, because we need to style the title as well. Now this dot, just go and copy title and name. So this is the text which will appear for the title. Now add the styling to that. So the title I want to appear in which color? This input color, of course. So color, it will be COL over color, right? And name is what we are passing the first object key. Okay, let's just add a separator to that, and now we need to call it from the index.js. So enter logger.setTitle, and then maybe we want our title to appear in blue color. Just add a default name to that, default, and then the color should be in blue color, blue. Fine, let's see how it works. Yeah, okay, the separator came back. So we need to change the placement of the title. Let's just copy the, yeah, then paste, space. See, now it's coming perfectly here. So this way you can add a title to each and every console log, and also with a customized style. Great. So this is the initial setup of our custom log. Okay, so pretty much many things we can do with this. So I just showed you 2 to 3 things. So now we have learned so many things about console, so different methods and different styling mechanisms. Now let's go to the next example. So in this next example, we will be trapping the console log method to print the response in the UI instead of the developer tools console. So here whatever you are giving as an input, that will be printed in the UI. Okay, so let's just start doing it in our logger.js itself. So for that we need to write a constructor. So let's create a constructor first. Constructor has one immediately invoking function. Let's create that function here. Okay, yeah, now it has a window object as an input, store as a variable, and then let's store the console object here on equal to window dot. Now let's modify the log method. Yeah, as you can see, for object and then stringify for the strings or non-object inputs, let's string convert it and try to display. So now we are, yeah, it is coming in the screen, default log message. Fine, now let's remove this one to see it clearly. Fine, so our input is working properly. So in case of object, it will come in the form of object. In this case, as you can see, it is not printing in the console, rather it is directly printing to the UI. So we are doing nothing but modifying the actual behavior of it. So if we don't want that to happen, print in the console whatever it was doing, but on top of it, it will add to the UI as well. So for that you need to do something else. So let's commented this one. Now let's store the console object here again. Okay, so let's make this empty. We already have this, yeah, console stored here. Let's window.console. Now the window.console is blank, and let's again storing that to another variable. Okay, so let's this is now once we have our console blank, so now window console is empty. Fine, we need to write our own logic. So here let's add that method first. That name is showLog, so it will do the similar work. If the input is a input is, let's see, if the input copy paste. So if the input is an object, it has to stringify it, otherwise it will simply print as a string. Okay, so this is the function, which we want to add to each and every console method. Now let's just go through each and every method like log, assert, count, whatever method is there. So this is the entire console, and every time we'll get the one method to it. So if it is a function, then we need to again store the similar behavior. Okay, now on equals to here the p. So now this is log or assert, whatever, we are reassigning the behavior since we've made it empty. Okay, with that we need to, okay, now let's just create a more function which will be invoked by the method. So each and every time one method is coming, we'll assign our showLog method to them, and then just whatever method body was there, we'll reassign it. Okay, now gone. So yeah, my bad. Okay, so this one we need to call the showLog. Okay, first we need to assign the showLog here. So p. Okay, all we are doing is we are just adding a new function to each and every method. So each and every method with whenever it is invoked, the showLog will be triggered. So let's just assign it first. So showLog equal to showLog. Now we have assigned, now we need to invoke it. Okay, we need to invoke each and every time you are calling a console method now with the first argument. Okay, so basically whatever we are passing, so that will be printed. The logic is written on top. Now let's just apply the existing behavior. So p dot apply. So this is for the existing behavior. For the existing behavior, you need to call it, of course, dot argument, entire arguments. So whatever you are passing, n number of argument you can pass. So as you can see, it is printing here clearly. Okay, it is printing in the console as well. It is printing in the UI. Let's just comment it. So log. Let's just create a default object. Okay, so now we'll try the other variation as well. So yeah, it is printing in a stringify fashion.